The words of one of these rhapsodies I've easily remembered. I was perhaps the more forcibly impressed with it as he gave it, because in the under or mystic current of its meaning, I fancy that I perceived it in the first time a full consciousness on the part of Usher of the tottering of his lofty reason upon her throne. The verses, which were entitled The Haunted Palace, ran very nearly, if not accurately, thus. In the greenest of our valleys, by good angels tenanted, once a fair and stately palace, radiant palace, reared its head, and the monarch thought's dominion had stood there. Never seraph spread a pinion over fabric half so fair. Banners yellow, glorious, golden, on its roof did float and flow. This, all this, was in the olden time long ago. And every gentle air that dallied in that sweet day along the ramparts plumed and pallid, a winged odor went away. Wanderers in that half valley through two luminous windows saw spirits moving musically to a lute's well-tuned law. Round about a throne were sitting Porphyrogeny, in his state, his glory well befitting. The ruler of the realm was seen, and all with pearl and ruby glowing was the fair palace door, through which came flowing, and sparkling evermore, a troop of echoes whose sweet duty was but to sing, and voices of surpassing beauty, the wit and wisdom of their king. But evil things and robes of sorrow assailed the monarch's high estate. Ah, let us mourn, for never morrow shall dawn upon him desolate. And round about his room, the glory that blushed and bloomed is but a dim remembered story of the old time entombed. And travelers now within that valley, through the red linten windows see vast forms that move fantastically to a discordant melody, while, like a rapid, ghastly river, through the pale door, a hideous throng rush out forever, and laugh, but smile no more. I well remember the suggestions arising from this ballad led us into a train of thought, wherein there became manifest an opinion of Usher's, which I mention not so much on the account of its novelty, for other men have thought thus, as on the account of the pertinacity with which he maintained it. This opinion, in its general form, was that of the sentience of all vegetable things, but in its disordered fancy, the idea had assumed a more daring character and trespassed under certain conditions upon the kingdom of inorganization. I lack words to express the full extent or of the earnest abandon of his persuasion. That belief, however, was connected, as I have previously hinted, with the grey stones of the home of his forefathers. The conditions of the sentence had been here, he imagined, fulfilled in the method of its collocation of these stones, in the order of their arrangement, as well as in that of many fungi which overspread them, and of the decayed trees which still round, above all in the long undisturbed endurance of this arrangement, and in the reduplication of the still waters of the Tarn. Its evidence, the evidence of the sentience, was to be seen, he said, and I here started as he spoke. And the gradual yet certain condensation of an atmosphere of their own about the waters in its walls. The result was discoverable, he added, in that silent yet importunate and terrible influence which for centuries had molded the destinies of his family, and which made him what I now saw him, what he was. Such opinions need no comment, and I will make none. Our books, the books which for years had formed no small portion of the mental existence of the invalid, were, as might be supposed, in strict keeping with this character of phantasm. We pored together over such works as the Vervet et Chartreuse, or of Grisset, the Belphegor of Machiavelli, the Heaven and Hell of Swedenborg, the Subterranean Voyage of Nicholas Klim by Holberg, the Chiromancy of Robert Fluid, of Jean d'Indigene, and of Della Chambre, the journey into the blue distance of Tietz, and the city of the son of Campanella. One favorite volume was a small octavo edition of the Directorium Inquisitorium by the Dominican Yemeric de Chiron, and there were passages in Pomponius Mela about the old African satyrs and Egyptians, over which Usher would sit dreaming for hours. His chief delight, however, was found in the perusal of an exceedingly rare and curious book in Quarto Gothic, the Manual of a Forgotten Church. The Vigilance Mortuorum Secundum Coram Ecclesis Magunensen. I could not help thinking of the wild ritual of this work, and of its probable influence upon the hypochondriac, when one evening, having informed me abruptly of the Lady Madeline was no more, he stated his intention of preserving her corpse for a fortnight, previously to its final interment, in one of the numerous vaults within the main walls of the building. The worldly reason, however, assigned for the singular proceeding was one which I did not feel at liberty to dispute. The brother had been led to his resolution, so he told me, by consideration of the unusual character of the malady of deceased, of certain obtrusive and eager inquiries on the part of her medical men, and of the remote and exposed situation of the burial ground of the family. I will not deny that when I called to mind the sinister countenance of the person whom I met upon the staircase on the day of my arrival at the house, I had no desire to oppose what I regarded as best but a harmless and by no means an unnatural precaution. At the request of Usher, I personally aided him in the arrangements for the temporary entombment. The body having been encoffined, we two alone bore it to its rest. The vault in which we placed it and with which had been so long unopened that our torches, half smothered in its oppressive atmosphere, gave us little opportunity for investigation. It was small, damp, and entirely without means of admission for light, lying at great length, at depth. Immediately beneath that portion of the building in which was my own sleeping apartment. It had been used apparently in remote feudal times for the worst purposes of a donjon keep. And in later days, as a place of deposit for powder or some other highly combustible substance as a portion of its floor, and the whole interior of a long archway through which we reached it were carefully sheathed with copper. The door, of massive iron, had been also similarly protected. Its immense weight caused an unusually sharp grating sound as it moved upon its hinges.